You were taught that Easter meant resurrection and new life, but the disturbing truth is even its name points to a vanished pagan goddess, Eostre, never mentioned in the Bible, and immortalized by an English monk in 725 CE. Nearly every European language calls this season Pascha, except English and German, which still whisper the goddess's name. And those painted eggs in your basket? Their story stretches back 60,000 years before Christ, carved as magical tokens of rebirth in Stone Age Africa and exchanged across Persian empires long before Rome. If none of this made it into your Sunday school, you have to wonder, what else have you never been told? In the year 725, an English monk named Bede sat in his scriptorium, quill in hand, and wrote something that would outlast kingdoms. In his Latin chronicle, he recorded that Eostre has a name which is now translated Paschal month, and which was once called after a goddess of theirs named Eostre, in whose honor feasts were celebrated in that month. Now they designate that Paschal season by her name. That single line, preserved in the British Library's Cotton Tiberius B.V. manuscript, is the only ancient source that names Eostre, a goddess erased from memory, except in the word that still sits atop every English church bulletin each spring. Look at the map of Europe's languages. In Spain, France, Italy, Poland, and Russia, the spring feast is called Pascha, rooted in the Hebrew Passover. In fact, over 86% of European languages use some form of Pascha. But in England and Germany, something peculiar happened. The old goddess's name, Eostre in English and Ostern in German, survived the sweep of Christianization, not as a statue or shrine, but as a word on millions of tongues every year. Bede's testimony stands alone. No other ancient English text mentions Eostre, no Anglo-Saxon shrine, no carved altar, no folk tale written down. Some modern scholars argue Bede invented her or misheard a local tale. Others point to Germanic inscriptions like the Matronae Austriacenae altars found near Bonn in the 1950s as possible distant cousins of this lost goddess. But the fact remains, the only direct evidence is Bede's careful line in a book written nearly 13 centuries ago. When you say Easter, you are speaking the name of a goddess whose festival once filled the English countryside with feasts and offerings. The church kept the timing and the name, but swapped the story. The pastel cards on your mantle, the plastic grass in your baskets, all echo a word that once called pagans to gather for spring's return. The next time you hear the word Easter, remember you are repeating a name that outlived the very rituals it once commanded. Long before church bells rang out on Easter morning, people were marking the return of spring with EGS. At South Africa's Deep Kloof rock shelter, archaeologists uncovered ostrich eggshells engraved with geometric patterns, dated to nearly 60,000 years ago. These are not just the world's oldest decorated eggs, they are some of humanity's oldest surviving arti. Some experts believe these shells were used in rituals asking for rain or fertility, their patterns echoing cycles of life and renewal. In the ancient world, eggs did not need a Christian story. Their meaning was obvious, life sealed inside a shell, waiting to break free. Travel forward to the Persian Empire, around 500 BCE. As the vernal equinox approached, families gathered for Nowruz, the Zoroastrian New Year. They painted eggs and set them out on the half-seen table, one for every member of the household. The eggs symbolized fertility and the hope that spring would bring new crops and children. Some of these painted eggs, found in royal tombs at Susa and now catalogued as Louvre Au 1234, still show traces of red and yellow dye. The tradition endures. Millions of Iranians still place colored eggs on their Nowruz tables each March, a custom older than the calendar used to determine Easter. In the 6th century, at the Synod of Auxerre, bishops issued a ban. No eggs during Lent, and no pagan egg customs in the churchyard. But the ban did not stick. By the Middle Ages, eggs reappeared, painted, buried in fields for luck, or rolled down hills to awaken the soil. Archaeologists still find fragments of these early Easter eggs, some in the British Museum, accessioned from forgotten village digs. The rules changed, but the eggs stayed. Every time a child lifts a painted egg from a basket, they are holding a symbol that stretches back to the Stone Age. The story told in Sunday school is a late chapter, one written on top of thousands of years of springtime hope, fertility magic, and the stubborn persistence of old rituals. The Church did not invent the Easter egg. It tried and failed to erase it. On the edge of the Black Forest in 1678, a Lutheran pastor stood before his congregation and warned parents about a new superstition. He spoke of the Osterhase, the Easter hare, said to visit children and deliver colored eggs if they had been good. The sermon, now catalogued in the Strasbourg State Archives, shelf mark ADBRKEH 1678, Easter, did not stop the story from spreading. By the end of the century, the hare had hopped from pulpit warnings into family rituals, leaving a trail of painted eggs across the German countryside. No animal in Europe had a reputation for multiplying like the hare. A single female can bear up to 40 kits a year, a fact that never escaped the notice of farmers or folk healers. In medieval bestiaries, the hare was a living emblem of fertility, moon-haunted, secretive, and always on the move at dawn. Folk tales said the hare could change sex or vanish into the grass, a creature half real, half myth, forever tied to the renewal of spring. When German-speaking Protestants sailed for America in the 1700s, they packed the Osterhase custom with them. Diaries from Pennsylvania's Lancaster Historical Society, shelf, MSS, 1743. Bachman record the excitement. One entry reads, "At Eastertide the children seek eggs from the haze who brings them in the night." The ritual took root in the New World soil. By 1740, Pennsylvania Dutch families were hiding eggs in haylofts and gardens, whispering to their children that the magical hare had come. The tradition outlasted language barriers, outgrew the old Lutheran warnings, and by the 19th century, the Easter Bunny was visiting households across America, its pagan pedigree forgotten under a layer of sugar and chocolate. The story of the bunny is not about innocence. It is a folk memory, smuggled in by immigrants, wrapped in the logic of nature. No church council invented it. No gospel mentions it. The hare's journey from pagan fertility mascot to pastel candy icon is written in sermons, diaries, and the biology textbooks that tally its endless offspring. Every time a child sits on the Easter Bunny's lap, they are posing with a symbol that once belonged to the wild, moonlit fields of old Europe, long before it hopped into the shopping mall. Easter's date refuses to stay put. Unlike Christmas, which anchors itself to December 25th, Easter drifts across the calendar, sometimes in late March, sometimes as far as late April. The reason is not written in any gospel. It is written in the stars and the moon, locked into place by a rule older than nearly every church building in the West. In the year 325, bishops from across the Roman world gathered at Nicaea. Their task was to settle the biggest controversies dividing Christians. One problem dominated the spring: when should Easter be celebrated? Some believers, called Quartodecimans, insisted on keeping the Jewish date, the 14th day of Nisan, tied directly to Passover, regardless of the weekday. Others argued the resurrection must always be honored on a Sunday, the day of Christ's rising. The debate was not just a matter of scheduling, it was about identity. How much of Christianity's story would remain bound to its Jewish roots, and how much would be rewritten for a new world? The bishops chose a formula that still governs Easter today, the first Sunday after the first full moon following the vernal equinox. The ruling appears in Latin, and a surviving manuscript in the Vatican Library records the decision. Codex Vat Lat 3256, Folio 12R, preserves the decree as a rule written in ink and illuminated with gold. That decision tied Easter forever to the rhythms of the cosmos. The equinox marks the moment day and night stand in balance. The full moon lights up the spring night, just as it did for ancient farmers and festival goers. The Church, seeking unity, chose to follow the sky rather than the old Jewish calendar. The moon's pull, the sun's return, the promise of new life. These forces shaped the timing of the holiday long before the Church claimed it. The Council's choice was not just a calculation, it was a declaration that Easter would be a cosmic event. not only a historical anniversary. The bishops could have fixed a date, but instead, they let the moon decide. Every spring, as calendars flip and families prepare for the holiday, they are following a formula set by men in robes, arguing under imperial banners, determined to distance themselves from their Jewish origins while unknowingly echoing cycles that pagans had honored for centuries. So when Easter jumps from March to April and back again, it is not a quirk. It is the legacy of a council that looked to the heavens, not the Bible, to decide when the resurrection should be remembered. The moon, the equinox, the Sunday, all woven together by decree, are reminders that the Church's holiest day is still ruled by the rhythms of the natural world. In a climate-controlled vault at the British Museum sits a loaf of bread older than the Bible's first written words. It is accession number 1-887-0508.45. This Bronze Age relic, carbon dated to nearly 1000 BCE, bears a deep cross carved into its crust. Archaeologists did not find prayers or gospels with it. They found sun symbols, wheels, and patterns that mapped the turning of the seasons. For the people who baked these loaves, the cross was not a mark of suffering. It was a diagram of the world. 4 arms for the seasons, 4 points for the winds, a wheel meant to coax the sun back from winter's grip. Across ancient Europe, similar marked breads turned up in burial mounds and hearths. In spring, families shaped dough into circles or wheels, scoring them with lines before offering them to the earth or to the goddess who governed renewal. Some loaves were left on stone altars, others buried in fields to awaken the sleeping grain. The incised cross was a promise that the sun would return, that the world would begin again. Centuries passed, and the meaning of the mark shifted. As Christianity spread, the Church saw the power in these familiar shapes. Rather than ban the old breads, priests allowed them, so long as the cross now honored the crucifixion. The bread did not change, only the story did. Every time a hot cross bun is pulled from the oven, it carries the memory of a symbol older than the faith that claims it. In the year 601, a letter left Rome bearing the seal of Pope Gregory I. Its destination was the wild, half-converted lands of early England. Gregory's instructions to his missionary Mellitus were blunt. He told them not to destroy the old temples. Instead, he instructed them to retain the temples of the idols and convert them to the worship of the true God. Scrape away the idols, cleanse the walls, but let the people keep their festival days. Just change the story. This was not mercy. It was strategy. Across Gaul and the British Isles, bishops and priests faced a stubborn problem. Converts clung to bonfires, maypoles, and spring feasts, honoring gods with names the Church wanted forgotten. In council after council, the advice was the same. Do not fight the calendar, baptize it. Let the people keep their dates, their dances, their bread and eggs. Tell them it is for the saints now. Maps from the early Middle Ages show ritual hotspots where old customs refuse to die. Northern Gaul, the Rhineland, the English shires. Letters from bishops in these regions echo Gregory's policy. Let them build their altars, but let the offerings be to Christ. The Church's new holidays rose directly from the ashes of the old. Every egg, every loaf, every sunrise bonfire survived because a bishop somewhere decided it was better to rename than to erase. That is why the ancient goddess's name lingers in your mouth each spring. The policy was clear. Keep the shell, swap the spirit. Easter, as you know it, is the product of centuries of compromise, an uneasy truce between old gods and new faith, written in papal ink and parish records. Old family photos, children in pastel, baskets brimming with eggs, church doors swinging open on chilly spring mornings. For most people, these images feel innocent, almost sacred. But what happens when you learn the symbols in those snapshots carry meanings your parents and pastors never mentioned? According to Pew Research, nearly 8 in 10 Americans celebrate Easter, most mixing faith and family tradition, often without a second thought about where the customs began. Ronald Hutton, one of the world's leading liturgical historians, puts it plainly. Continuity is not deception. The Church adapted the rhythms of spring because they fit the story of resurrection. For some, that is a comfort. For others, it stings, a realization that the line between sacred and seasonal was always more blurred than they were told. A Midwestern pastor recently summed up the tension. When he preaches about Easter's layers, some in his congregation are curious, others defensive, but most just want to know if the symbols still mean something when they are older than the story. So ask yourself, when you look at your own Easter memories, do you feel nostalgia, betrayal, or both? Does knowing the truth change how you want to celebrate or who you want to share it with? Maybe you will shrug and keep the tradition. Maybe you will start a new conversation at the next family dinner. Either way, you now hold a story that most people around you have never heard. If you think someone should know, share it and let them decide what Easter means for themselves. For further reading and sources, see the bibliography at the end of this film. Every spring, millions celebrate Easter without realizing they are echoing rituals older than Christianity itself. As churches and families repeat these traditions, the past is not just remembered, it is relived. The symbols in your hands carry meanings shaped by centuries of adaptation and silence. Belief and history rarely align, but questioning what you inherit is how truth survives. Would you celebrate differently now that you know? Share your thoughts below.